been 20 days since the judge in the classified documents case, Judge Aileen Cannon, held a hearing to discuss a possible new trial date. The special counsel, Jack Smith, is hoping that it'll go to trial this summer. Donald Trump is hoping that it'll go to trial never. And nearly 3 weeks later, Judge Cannon has yet to make a decision on the matter. She has found time, however, to hold a separate hearing on a couple of Donald Trump's motions to dismiss the case. She dismissed one of them the same day, kind of. She shot down Trump's request to dismiss the charges against him based on unconstitutional vagueness. But she also left the door open to bring that idea back at trial. Then, in an order Judge Cannon issued this week, she appears to be engaging with Trump's other motion to dismiss this case. This one based on his claim that he had the right under the Presidential Records Act to keep classified documents. Judge Cannon has given lawyers on both sides another couple of weeks to submit proposed jury instructions about that question. And that has raised eyebrows among legal experts who are watching this case closely, some of whom are describing Judge Cannon's order with words like insane.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the mainstream liberal media in panic mode like they always are when it comes to Trump and the possibility that he will be in jail or convicted of one of these fraudulent political persecutions against them before the election. Now, it looks like as of today that it seems unlikely when it comes to the cases that people actually care about, which is the RICO case in Georgia, the classified documents case, and the January 6th case. It looks like it is not very likely that Trump will be convicted before the election. However, we do have to worry about the Alvin Bragg hush money Stormy Daniels case that nobody talks about because everybody knows that that is the most ridiculous one, right? I mean, that is honestly like a clown show case, which is why nobody talks about it, because there's a good chance that Trump will beat these charges. And if he happens to get convicted, then he probably won't face jail time, okay? I mean, there's a possibility that he could be sentenced to 4 years in prison, but it's not likely, right? So that's why nobody talks about the Alvin Bragg case. It's the least serious one. However, that is the one that looks like there's a possibility that there will be a trial before the election. But again, because everybody knows that nobody cares about that one, nobody's paying attention to it, right? So what the mainstream liberal media is panicking about are the cases that people actually care about. And it looks like those probably aren't going to happen before the election. That doesn't mean that, for certain it won't happen. It just means that as of today, Trump's tactics to delay the start date of these trials, which he has every right to do, okay, are working, right? They're working, and it's pissing the mainstream liberal media off. It's also pissing off the never-Trumpers like Liz Cheney, who is going to beg the Supreme Court to fast-track their ruling on whether or not Trump has presidential immunity, okay? And it's hilarious because people like her, okay, are straight up relying on Trump to be convicted and thrown in jail before the 2024 election. And the fact that it looks like that probably won't happen is becoming less and less likely as we move closer to the election. These people are in full-blown panic mode. They're losing their minds because their plans are falling apart right before their eyes to rig the 2024 election, because that is what this is about, right? It is about rigging the election against Trump in favor of Biden by having Trump convicted in these kangaroo trials. So without further ado, let's react to Liz Cheney once again, melting down over the fact that she's not getting her way.
Walk back from the edge of the abyss. That's from conservative stalwart Liz Cheney just last night at an event in Iowa. Liz Cheney had scathing words, not just for her own party for, quote, abandoning the Constitution, but also for the United States Supreme Court, the nation's highest court, for potentially paving the way for Donald Trump to avoid going to trial for an attempted coup plot against the United States government. Cheney urging the Supreme Court to grasp exactly what it is doing by slow-walking the Trump immunity case, where he is claiming that he's immune from prosecution for the insurrection because he was acting in his capacity as president. Listen to that.
I think it's very important that the Supreme Court recognize that what he's doing is a delaying tactic, and that that the American people, it cannot be the case that a president of the United States can attempt to overturn an election and seize power, and that our justice system is incapable of holding a trial, of holding him to account before the next election. That cannot be the case. Taking action that will result in further delay in preventing the American people from seeing that evidence in open court is itself suppression of the evidence, that the American people have a right to see that evidence, and the court ought to recognize that.
Wow. So she's accusing the Supreme Court of suppressing the evidence against Trump, right? As if the American people need to see anything else when it comes to what happened on January 6th. Well, we actually do. What we actually need to see in regards to what happened on January 6th, they won't show us, right? Because that doesn't fit the narrative, okay? They want to hide that, cover that up. But in regards to Trump's actions, there's nothing else that we need to see, okay? I think people have their minds made up when it comes to what happened that day in regards to Trump's role. But again, people like her are begging the Supreme Court to fast walk what they are realizing is clearly and obviously political persecution, right? They are trying to basically prevent the powers that be who've brought all these cases against Trump at the same time. For what reason? Why do they do this, right? Why is it that all this stuff is happening literally right at the same time before the election? It doesn't matter which trial it is, right? Whether you look at what's happening with Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, the classified documents, Jack Smith's January 6th, what's going on with Georgia RICO, they're literally all doing this at the same time. Well, why is that? It's because they're all working together to try to bankrupt Trump, right? Take his money, okay? Letitia James, his personal money. They're trying to bankrupt his campaign, okay, by making him pay all this money to defend himself in court. And then on top of that, they're trying to get some conviction in order to have him convicted and thrown in jail before the election. All this in an attempt to sway the outcome of the 2024 election. And the Supreme Court probably realizes this, right? There's no doubt they realize it, because when it comes to certain cases, like, for example, when the left-wing lunatics in these liberal states were trying to keep Trump off the ballot, the Supreme Court fast-tracked that, right? They immediately heard the cases on that and ruled that, yeah, Trump can stay on the ballot. Okay, so when it comes to the cases that actually really are a threat to democracy, again, like, you know, Democrats trying to remove their political opponents from the ballot, the Supreme Court heard that very quickly. Well, why did they hear that very quickly? It's because they know that what Democrats are doing is political persecution. So they're picking and choosing cases that they are fast tracking based off democracy, right? What is actually democratic, which is the hilarious part about this. These people that claim they're pro-democracy don't like the Supreme Court actually upholding democracy, right? Not letting the deep state and these Democrats basically rig our elections. Again, it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Okay. So yeah, Liz Cheney is panicking because if Trump wins, people like her should be concerned, right? They're going to lose their minds.
It cannot be the case that our justice system is incapable of holding him accountable. From Liz Cheney. She's talking to you, Supremes. She's saying that there is a threat that the courts are now enabling Trump from to avoid all legal accountability and political accountability from the voters. Because more than 3 years after the insurrection, the voters do not have access to a full accounting of what happened. And they won't see that in a court of law.
Again, that's ridiculous, right? It's absolutely ridiculous, okay? The voters have access to all the information, okay? There's no information that the voters don't have access to. We all know what happened that day, okay? But again, what these people are trying to do, they're actually really trying to prevent voters from being able to decide, right? That's the irony here, okay? Because throwing a man in jail, okay, before the election, you are trying to rig the outcome of the election. You're trying to sway the outcome of the election by throwing him in jail. Okay, you're trying to take away the choice from voters when you try to remove him from the ballot. Again, that's the irony here, right? These people are literally advocating to do things that they claim that they're against, right? It's just so funny to me.
Donald Trump is one step closer to the presidency now, thanks to a political party that has nominated him and continues to enable him. Here's what Cheney had to say about that to her fellow Republicans.
It created a situation where I think voters thought, well, it must not be that he's that dangerous, because if he were, then, you would have more people saying so. And look, I think the Republican Party leadership itself had to make a choice. Many times they were faced with a choice between doing what was right, between furthering the democracy and the Constitution, or embracing Donald Trump, and they chose Donald Trump.
Cheney also saying that people should make no mistake. A second Trump term will not look anything like the first Trump term. There will be no more adults in the room. No one in the administration will stand in the way of Trump shredding the United States Constitution. Instead, Trump, by his own admission, will install crackpots, more than willing to do his bidding.
It's important to recognize, for example, what it would mean to have a president who refused to abide by the rulings of our courts. And
wow, amazing. It's funny how Liz Cheney has nothing to say about this when Biden refuses to abide by the rulings of the court. Again, see, that's the problem with people like Liz Cheney to me, right? The Adam Kinzingers, the Alyssa Farah Griffins of the world, okay? Because these people try to play this role as principled conservatives, right? I'm standing up for conservative principles against Trump, okay? I'm a principled conservative. Except Liz Cheney spends more time criticizing Trump than she criticizes Joe Biden. And see, here's the thing. MSNBC doesn't give a damn about Liz Cheney if she's saying anything bad about Joe Biden, right? If Liz Cheney has anything bad to say about a Democrat, they do not care. They will not platform her. They only platform her when she is talking trash about Trump. That's it. That's it. Other than that, MSNBC, they rather not have her on it at all, right? And that's the funny part about this, because in the wake of Ronald McDaniel being hired and then immediately fired, right, from NBC because these propagandists were boohoo whining and crying about having to work with somebody who has a different opinion than them, that showed you everything you need to know about these mainstream liberal media outlets, is that they are not neutral, okay? They're not neutral, even though they claim they're neutral. And the only Republican voices they're going to allow are Republicans that they feel are acceptable, aka Democrat light, aka never Trumpers, anti-Trumpers, okay? Those are the only people they're going to allow. And if they allow those people, they're not going to allow them to talk about any type of conservative policies or anything they believe in outside of their opposition to Trump. That's it. Outside their opposition to Trump, they don't want to hear anything from these people. And then they try to say, well, we platform Republicans. No, you don't. You actually really don't platform Republicans. You platform anti-Trumpers, okay? Because I've never heard Liz Cheney talk about anything on MSNBC or CNN that doesn't have to do with trashing Trump. And that's the funny part about this. She doesn't even realize she's a pawn, okay? But again, she wants to remain a part of the establishment. She is a pawn of the establishment, really. And this is what you got to do if you're a Republican, right? If you're a Republican nowadays, nobody cares about what you have to say and what policies you want to push. All they care about is whether or not you're anti-Trump. If you're anti-Trump, good. You can be on the team, right? But if you're pro-Trump, then no, you can't. We're not going to deal with you at all, right? Again, it's embarrassing. It really is. This is why I don't respect people like Liz Cheney. This is why I don't respect people like Adam Kinzinger. I don't respect the Alyssa Farah Griffins of the world, because they've essentially sold their souls to these mainstream liberal media outlets that don't actually give a damn about conservatives or conservative policies. All they care about is whether or not these people are going to be anti-Trump. That's it.
When, you have a situation where the reason that our courts have the power that they do and that they have to have under our Constitution is because the chief executive enforces their rulings. The courts can't enforce their own rulings. And all you have to do is listen to what Donald Trump says, look at the filings that his lawyers have made in the immunity case and others. The moment that the court rules in a way he disagrees with, he will just ignore it. He'll refuse to abide by it. I think that's also important for people to understand. He will appoint people who will do his bidding. He will appoint people, and if they are nervous about doing his bidding, he'll offer them pardons. And he won't leave office. I mean, just think about, we know he tried once not to leave office. And he will have no incentive to guarantee a peaceful transfer of power and to leave office if he's elected again.
A high-power Republican joining a...
Yeah, ridiculous, okay? Absolutely ridiculous. This idea that Trump won't leave office is just dumb, okay? It really is. We have checks and balances for a reason, and that's just not going to happen, right? Under no scenario is Trump going to attempt to stay longer than his term, okay? I think Trump wants to serve another 4 years. He's going to be in his 80s. I don't think that he's going to be willing to continue to go again or to try to do that again. And if he was actually willing to do that, the time to do it would have been in 2020, right? 2021, okay? I mean, he could have just been like, no, I'm not going to leave the White House. You got to kill me if you want me to not be president anymore. He didn't do that, right? Which tells you everything you need to know about whether or not he actually has the cojones to do that. He doesn't have the cojones to do that. And it's actually a good thing that he doesn't have the cojones to do that. So again, I think all this fear mongering is what it is fear mongering. But again, Liz Cheney, people like her are sad and pathetic to me because they try to stand on this platform of principled conservatism, except they're not pushing any conservative principles, right? When they go on these networks like CNN, like a MSNBC, when is Liz Cheney talking about anything except Trump? She's not, right? She's not. So again, I'm not sure how you're advancing the conservative agenda or how you are putting any new ideas out there when all you talk about is Trump. So hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.